You know where I got this, Joe?
I do. I don't think everyone else does, though.
You want to tell a story where I pour it?
So we went on a tour of giving gifts to coaches, and they all got fired, and we got fired. However,
Wait a minute. Steve Forbes didn't get fired.
Oh, you're right. Whew, whew.
He smoked my dad's cigar and he didn't get fired.
So it wasn't
Anyway,
us.
no, it was not
But
us.
in the process of that, Kevin Keats, NC State basketball coach, decided to reward you for having to work with me with some awesome Blantons, which I am not the liquor whiskey person, but I know bourbon, but you are, and I know you know the good stuff when you get it. So hat tip to Coach Keats for his kindness.
All right, so to Keats for his kindness, and also to Toast, whatever the hell we're gonna freaking do, man. By the way, I realize I can curse now because I'm not like constrained by FCC rules, but I'll probably that's gonna be a hard habit to break.
Yeah, you gotta walk yourself into that. You don't want to go too fast.
By the way, is it cool if I have Blanton's at 8:42 in the morning? It's probably fine. No big deal. Breakfast and bourbon. All right. So if you're listening, first off, thank you. I'm Joe Ovies. That's Joe Giglio. I'll probably start doing shows when we start on our normal broadcast schedule with Let's Podcast, I guess, since that's what we're going to be doing, both on podcasts, and obviously these things will be going on YouTube as well. I want to be completely upfront that this episode, while it is episode 1, is the only episode that's going to sound like this. Essentially, Giglio and I are going to explain a few things, where we're at, what we're thinking. Giglio behind the scenes likes to make fun of me from time to time about my big bootstraps energy. Well, guess what, Joe? Guess what we're doing? We're going to pull them up by the bootstraps. And here we go. Okay. So let's
got no choice.
You want to, yeah, we also have no choice. You want to add anything before I go to the Google Doc?
Just a thank you to everyone. We were at the Sawmill Tap Room together the other night with Dimitri, kind of coming up with our plan, and we saw some listeners there and some people who have followed our careers, and those kind of words, no matter where I've been the last week, that's been what people have come up and said. And I know it's a cliche, but it actually, when things are fairly shitty, it is nice for someone to come up to you and be like, hey, man, big fan, loved your show, loved your work, you guys were great. And it means something.
You literally just made me like flinch when you cursed. I was like, "Did no?" I'm like, "Oh, wait a minute, it doesn't matter."
Hold on.
I know.
So yeah, no, thank you, because the response, not only from I'll say they're fans, but people who listen and people who partake in our content, but also our sources, the coaches, the administrators, Jim Phillips, Tom Dundon, you name it, everyone has reached out, and it's been it's been both humbling, and it's also been a great confidence pick me up. And I think we're stupid enough to try this, and we're wonky enough to try to old school / I think your wife Kelly called it high school energy with some of our graphics. So I love it.
I mean,
and I think what's important,
I'm using actual yellow pad for this stuff. So
yeah, I'm telling you, man, it's the easiest thing to do. And I just think people like us, and I think this is an opportunity to give people what they want in a little bit of a different format. But I do think once we get back on the bike, you just keep pedaling.
Well, I was going to get to a few of those things later on when we get to the questions part of it. But as you mentioned, if you're watching on YouTube, I pulled up the Google Doc. We always use Google Docs to prep for the show and communicate on the show. So it kind of is what goal number 1 is: attempt to keep doing what we were doing. I don't think I'm speaking out of turn here or bragging when I say that Giglio and I, at least I felt, had a pretty good thing going. To Giglio's point about the reaction and how everybody's reached out, whether it's from phone calls, texts, DMs, emails, etc. I think it connected with a lot of people too as to what we were doing. I think people appreciate authenticity. They appreciate whether they agree or disagree with us, and a lot of people do disagree with some of the things we have to say about their favorite teams. They at least appreciate that we're coming from a place of authenticity. We're not trying to kiss anybody's ass. We're basically doing what guys who have been in this market since college would think. I mean, again, I'm not kidding when we say we have combined decades of experience, both having gone to college here, both Joe and I going to NC State, Kelly going to North Carolina and Duke for law school, my brother going to NC State. I mean, we're here. So we're going to attempt to keep doing what we were doing. I really had no interest in going anywhere else. I've had opportunities to pick up work doing other things, but I like it here. I know what it's like here. I think this market is one of the most unique sports markets, thanks to the 3 colleges that we have in our backyard. This being, the central focus of the ACC, thanks to Tobacco Road. We got a professional hockey team that's on a roll right now. The Carolina Panthers have reboot, and they've got their new quarterback and a new coach. So why would I want to go anywhere else? I like it here. I've never had any intention of going, which gets us to bullet point number 2, transparency. Look, Joe, you know me well enough now over 20 years where I'm kind of a master of none. I like to know a little about a lot. Okay. And while I do dabble in technology and I have a pretty good handle on how things work, I've actually never started a podcast from the ground up. I've never actually done the YouTube channel from the ground up. So I'm doing a lot of learning. I've spent a lot of time, much to the annoyance of my family, going through a lot of tutorials and tweaking things. So the point being that things are going to change over time. Hopefully things will improve. We're going to keep a little bit of that analog energy, a little bit of that amateur energy. That's just simply me, but I'm going to be upfront. Like, I think I know what I'm doing, but we'll find out as things go on, Joe.
Yeah, listen, we couldn't have done this 10 years ago. We couldn't even have done it 5 years ago.
Speaking of transparency, as you mentioned, what did you want to do 15 years ago? You and I had this conversation.
Yeah, I wanted to start the Raleigh Times with the blessing of Greg Hadem, where we would, talk and I would write, and it would be kind of like the old 850 The Blog, which give yourself a little bit of credit there. Speaking of being the master of none, no, you were an early mover on what content and how people wanted to digest content. And there'll probably some of that. We'll work on a newsletter, as I've been advised by my neighbor Kevin, who tells me such things are important. Your email addresses are important. So but, like you said, we're going to start with what we know, and I think that's Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. We play the hits. Right now it's Canes, but a lot of Panthers and ACC, of course. We'll still have, I think we'll do probably something like a longer interview stuff rather than try to shoehorn it into like 10 minutes into a radio segment. I think one thing that you're going to you, Joe Ovies, are really going to love is we don't have the constraints of a clock. We don't have the constraints of having to reset. It's going to be right there on the name. Everyone's going to know what we're doing. Yeah. And that, to me, the humbly, I would say to you, the best work I've done in 27 years in this business was the Roy Williams podcast. And a big part of that, of course, is Roy himself and his ability to tell a story. But I also think it is the ability for us to understand how to shape that story, the questions to ask, and giving somebody the room to tell that story. And I think while we're not going to have 6-part podcasts, I do think when you see us talk to a Steve Forbes, when you see us talk to a John Shire and a Kevin Keats, Jim Phillips, Tom Dundon, those are going to be different than, your normal standardized radio interviews that, quite frankly, we tried our best to make unique. And I think a lot of times we did, but there are constraints to the medium. And I think this is one thing that, again, we're going to try to take the best parts of what we did and improve upon them, all while maintaining the hits. And I think it's proven, you and I were together for 3 years in radio. And I think it was proven this year, which was our first normal year. Okay. You would talk about bad signs, Joe. my first day at the company, the world shuts down. So maybe in retrospect, I probably should have looked back at that one and said, well, you know, this might not work. This might not end the way we want it to end. But we had a
Yeah,
normal
but
year. We had a
it worked
normal
though.
year
That's
this year,
good.
Joe, and we
Mhm.
had a great year ratings wise. And for that, obviously, I'm thankful to you. I'm thankful to all the people that helped us get there. But I think ultimately, when we do what we do best, people find it compelling, and that's what we're going to do with the OG Live Podcasting Company.
All right. So, questions. A lot of folks have asked, well, how are you doing? And I appreciate everybody who has reached out. I've tried to respond to as many people as possible. If I've missed you, I apologize. I will get around to that. I'll keep it really, really simple, Joe. I don't know how you've talked about it with your kids, but Caleb, who's 15 years old and spends a lot of time playing video games, asked me after, actually, how did he put it? He's like, hey, man, this was like last Friday. Can you take me to the mall to meet up with my friends at 4 o'clock since you're unemployed now? I was like, yeah, dude, I got you. I could be your taxi. It's no big deal. He still has to take his driver's eds here relatively soon. But anyway, he had asked me, he's like, so what are you going to do when we were going to carpool the other day? And I was like, well, I said, the best way I can describe it for you to understand is video games. He used to play a ton of Minecraft. He used to be all about Fortnite. Now he plays this game called Rust. I don't know too much about Rust, but the point is they are all essentially the same. You start out with an axe, and then you build up over time. You build up your weapons, you build your buildings, you craft your stuff, you get better. And that's how I put it. Like, hey man, over 20 years, I basically acquired knowledge. I acquired stuff. I added to the toolbox and got better. But then I got zapped. So now there's no save point in this game. So you got zapped. So you lost all your stuff. So you're right back to the beginning on the map with an axe. So that's kind of where I'm at. StreamYard, buying microphones, getting a better camera, all that stuff. It's just going from the axe to bringing back the tools and things like that. So that's where I'm at. Look, man. I had this realization in college when I was at NC State and I was doing computer science, Joe. I don't know about you. I think you've always felt like you wanted to do this newspaper stuff. Originally, I went to NC State thinking I was going to do computer science. And I had this realization. I'm like, I cannot sit in a cubicle all day working a 9 to 5. I can't. I don't think I'm capable of doing it. Some people are just not equipped to live that life. I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying it ain't for me. So when I went through some soul searching, I'm like, well, had a good run. Maybe I'll go get a quote unquote real job. I'm like, I can't, man. I can't do it. So I'd rather go ahead and give this a shot, Joe, and see what happens than regret not giving it a shot. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I've never felt more like a coach in my life than getting fired on a Wednesday randomly and getting a lot of texts, quite frankly, even from some coaches. And I was like, I do wish I had your severance kind of walkaway package that you guys got. But I definitely, you actually kind of taught me that in radio. I've written many times about NC State that you don't get to pick your own endings. That's not how. And when I told you about Tom Brady, and the same applies to us. And I'll just say this: it's not our ending. So
no. Look. Shout out to Steve Logan, who used to do a lot of radio with. He always said, "Coaching ends badly." So you know what? So does radio. So that's why, while it's very, very wonky, it's also one of the most cliche things that can happen in radio. I feel like it's a badge of honor, honestly. All right, schedule. So ideally, the podcast schedule to start will be Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. There might be some supplemental stuff that gets filled in. There is a plan to reboot the beer podcast, although it's not going to be Adam and Wayne. Shout out to Adam and Wayne. They're not necessarily married to just doing beer anymore. We've been doing the beer podcast for about 10 years. And while we appreciate everybody who has listened, the craft beer industry here in North Carolina has become very, very mature. And there's been a lot of movement with distilleries and dispensaries, because we know where that's going, Joe. So I think the name that we're kind of workshopping is 919 Vice.
If you don't use the Miami Vice font, I'm going to kick your butt, man. That's awesome.
You can say ass.
I love it. I think that will be great. And like I said, you and I, we'll get the hits Monday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Yeah.
We'll have this thing. Now, remember, we're going to have this thing for your carpool. For all these people who have reached out, what am I supposed to do during carpool? Download the podcast.
Yes.
That's all you have to do. We have a link. Check it out. Download it. Then you have it. And then when you get in your car, I'm going to tell you this now because I can. I know all you people were doing us a favor by listening to radio. I get it. But you're already in your car with your phone. If you're like me, you need an aux cord still. You don't have Bluetooth because you're not that fancy like OVIES.
Yeah, I'm fancy.
And download the podcast. You listen to it. You'll be able to pick your hits when you see the stuff on YouTube, which we'll get to right now too. We've learned a lot about YouTube just in the last, what, Joe? 5 months?
6 months. Yeah, 5 to 6 months. Yeah.
And I think that is really going to be something that appeals to you. If you're a State fan, you got the State stuff. You're a Canes fan, you're going to have the Canes stuff. You're a Panthers fan, or maybe, especially if you're a Panthers fan, we found that we don't exactly have the same opinion as you. But sometimes, people like to hate watch. So I'm okay.
They do. They absolutely do. So yeah, as far as the YouTube is concerned, the way initially it's going to be broken out is we'll have the quote unquote full show, and then I'll break it out into a mixtape type format where we'll have a broken out, if we talk about NC State, we'll have a broken out NC State video. We'll have a broken out North Carolina video, a broken out Duke video, very similar to what we were doing before. Same with the Panthers and the Canes, etc. And also in that mixtape, or maybe I'll make another channel, another playlist that's just the people that we talk to. But anyway, the point is we'll have the full show if you want to check out the entire thing because you got time to kill your job, and you want to slack off a little bit, or if you just want to get the snackable size of what we've done in the show, all that stuff will be available on YouTube. The podcast is going to be the podcast. We're just going to have the full show of the podcast. It'll last anywhere between 30 minutes to an hour. While to Joe's point, there's a lot about the podcast format that allows you to breathe, but I still believe that the way radio does things is the smartest way because I know how your attention spans work. We're all competing for all sorts of attention. The attention economy is a real thing. So we're not going to waste your time meandering for 2 hours, 3 hours. We're going to get to the point. We're going to try to get as in-depth as we can. We're going to have some fun, but we're not going to do it over a long period of time. So the episodes will last anywhere between 30 minutes to an hour. And we'll do our typical features in there as well. Hey, Joe, we'll use that hashtag, for mailbag questions and get people to do that because I have the technology through StreamYard to bring those types of things up. Now, as far as other platforms, this is something that Joe and I have talked about, and Dimitri, who's a part of this as well, as a partner, have talked about. Right now, it's just YouTube and podcast. As for what could be in the future, well, Joe, we could do any number of things. There could be a newsletter. I don't think we'd be asking much of people if we asked for $5 a month through a Substack where we say, hey, look, you give us $5 a month and we'll give you some writing, whether it's from us, Dimitri, or other people that you've enjoyed in the past that might need some freelance work.
I will tell you this too. We're going to do OG live podcasting company events. We're going to have a golf tournament. I know it's your favorite, but we're going to have a golf tournament.
Really?
Yes. And
okay.
I'm not going to talk out of school here. However, I do feel like there is a pizza night in our future.
Oh, okay. I'm down for that.
Once a month, we have a pizza night.
Man, I've been eating my feelings, Joe. Let's go.
We get our listeners to our friend Anthony at Oakwood, and maybe we'll have a surprise guest at pizza night. Who knows? Maybe. We'll have to be calling in all of those favors. Yeah, be warned. Everyone who texted, hey, let me know what I can do. Oh, yeah.
Oh, we're gonna hit you up.
Oh yeah,
we are absolutely. Hey, look.
And speaking of which,
I put it in the teaser. I put it in the teaser. Like, all the people who said, "Oh no, whatever you guys do next, I'll check it out. I'll follow." I'm like, all right, we are literally holding you to it. Which gets to the last part.
Yes.
Want to advertise?
We're gonna sell
ads.
You want to
advertise?
You want to advertise with us?
Let's put it up there.
Send me an email. Giglio.joe@gmail.com. Also, my DMs are open on Twitter, Giglio_OG. Big shout out right now to Hayes Lancaster, Pest Authority, Mosquito Authority. He did the NC State podcast with me. He's going to do the version of the NC State podcast that we do here for the OG Live Podcasting Company. I guarantee you're going to get a bang for your buck, and would love to talk to anyone out there if you want to be a part of the OG Live Podcasting Company. Gilio.joe@gmail.com.
I dig it. I dig it. All right. So before we get out of here,
I finally get a win. You're going to give me a you were right. Because I can't. We got fired. I don't care about that. All I care about is you telling me I was right.
Hey. Careful with the word fired. Okay. Careful with the word fired.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and hold on a second. Again, like I said at the beginning of this podcast, YouTube thing, we're all just kind of doing this on the fly. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing the screen real quick. And I'm going to bring in another thing here with a Chrome tab. We've got hockey to talk about, because to your point, you want to be right about stuff. Let's be right about stuff, Joe. Let's talk about how you write about the Canes in the Stanley Cup playoffs and who they're going to see starting tonight.
Well, I told you bracket luck was real, and it took the NCAA tournament to really crystallize this for me. And okay, this is the part where I say because we've talked about in 2019 with Virginia and trying to give Virginia credit. We've talked about this, and you said, even if the bracket opens up for you, you have to take advantage of it. Well, here we are for the Canes. The bracket has opened up for them. They have to take advantage of it. The Bruins, the best team in the regular season, the best regular season in the NHL history, gone, thanks to Paul Maurice and Eric Stahl and the Florida Panthers. The Rangers, the team who I really felt like has the Canes number. Well, it doesn't matter if they have their number. They're not there. So it's Canes, Devils. They have an unbelievable history in the playoffs. Shout out to Marty Brodeur. First time we won't see him in the playoffs when it's Canes.
It's going to be weird, man. It's going to be weird.
We still have Rod Brindamore in there. And, man, I think this series is going to be great. And, man, I would love a reunion with Paul Maurice and Eric Stahl in the next round. But let's just say, I just wanted to say, man, bracket luck is real. It's a real thing, but now they have to do the thing that you were right about. You have to take advantage of the opportunity.
Yeah, you got to take advantage of the opportunity, and let's not act like the New Jersey Devils haven't been good all season long too. I get they didn't have the they don't have the historic now black mark like a lot of other President's Trophy winners have now. I mean, join the club, Boston. You just did it. You whole-assed it. All right, you broke records. You were historic, and you still failed. Right. So to your point, there is an opportunity there, but let's also not act like the Devils don't have some pieces that the Canes currently don't. And it comes back down to your best players being your best players. Do you have dudes? Dougie Hamilton, we know his experience here. Can he step up? It'd be really unfortunate if he stuck it to the Canes. Timo Meier, you look at the entirety, and we'll talk about this a little bit more tomorrow, but you look at the entirety of all the moves, the Canes, to their credit, were ultimately proven right. Tom Dundon, when he sat down with us at the Stadium Series game at Carter Finley Stadium, and he's like, I'm not mortgaging my future. I like my team. This is something that's going to keep rolling. We don't have this window that you perceive. A lot of other teams did. The Rangers bulked up. What happened to them, right? The Islanders bulked up. The Canes just knocked them out. Now, the Devils also made some moves too with Timo Meier, who somehow got up after that hit, but it is what it is. And here they are. And there's one other piece here that's going to be the most intriguing, the part that I'm mostly fascinated by. This is where PNC,
talking about.
This is the one I've been talking about. And this is the thing that to me is going to be hilarious, because you know how PNC Arena gets for these types of things. Erik Haula in the house again. Okay. Now he exits Carolina a few years ago. He was persona non grata. He was not exactly a fit in the locker room. And he ended up being a pest in their series against Nashville in 21. He was a pest in their series against Boston in 22. And here he is again. You could bring up Scott Stevens. You could shout out to Luke DeCock of the News and Observer, who's conjuring up those old Devils things. Now, the real rivalry is the Canes versus Erik Haula. And that dude is going to freaking hear it tonight and the rest of the series.
Yeah, I love it, and I'm looking forward to it. And big shouts to the Canes right now and Mike Sondheim. I will be attending tonight's game on a credential for the OG Live Podcasting Company.
Wait, did you get that on the credential for real?
I did. Hey man, that's
love
what we are now.
No, I love
Gotta
it. I
rep.
love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I'm here for that, man. I'm absolutely here for that. Very excited about that. So no, I got. I'll be watching the game tonight, but I got to take. You know, the benefit of all of this and the change in the schedule is I can go be a hockey dad now. I'm very excited
Yeah.
about this.
You were
So I'll
already
be-
like halfway there. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm surprised you're not wearing the jacket. So I'm a little bit disappointed.
Maybe I'll wear it tomorrow.
Okay.
Never know. Never know.
Hey, I'll see you
Never
tomorrow.
know. Yeah, you will see me tomorrow. All right, so that's it. So I was expecting to do this 15 minutes, but I'm a habitual
There's no
destroyer
clock, man.
of
You're good.
clocks. And you're right. I'm like, oh, there's a time constraint. Actually, there's no time constraint. I can do whatever the heck I want. Anyway, appreciate everybody who's already subscribed. Appreciate everybody who's already thrown 5 stars on the podcast, Positive Vibes Only. And I appreciate everybody who's gone to the YouTube page and subscribed there. Shout out to the Langleys, to Ken and Ashley, who we met in Charlotte.
Great
So
people.
Ken really wants me to try the Cuban biscuit from Biscuitville. I'm Cuban, of Cuban descent. We talk about Cuban sandwiches all the time. So he desperately wants me to try this Cuban biscuit. So I made him a deal. I said, when we get to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, and 1,000 subscribers on YouTube is very crucial to what we're trying to do here. So once we get to 1,000 subscribers, I will go to Biscuitville and I will eat that thing in the middle of a podcast. So we'll go from there. So again, appreciate everybody. In all sincerity, I appreciate everybody who's reached out. I appreciate everybody who's already excited about what we're doing. So stick with us. We ain't going anywhere. So we'll see what happens. We will see you Thursday for like an actual show, like an actual attempt at a show, and see where it goes from there.